Good morning, everyone, to the final event of the MobILE project. Just some practicalities before we start. First of all, welcome to this final event and thanks for joining us. Everybody in the audience is muted, and but there's still possibility to interact with the speakers and the panelists in this event. You can do it by introducing a question in writing in the question box which you see on your panel, and the answer will be picked at the right moment and answered either by the panelists or by the speaker either in writing or in voice. So. Enjoy the event. I hand the floor to Alex Vallejo, the coordinator of MobILE. Alex, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Giacomo. Good morning, everybody, also from my side, and welcome to this MobILE final event. I'm Alex Vallejo, as Giacomo said. I'm from A+IDIADA, and I am the MobILE project coordinator. Before we start with the sessions, I will quickly introduce today's agenda, and then we'll get started. So first of all, a little bit of context for the ones you maybe don't know the project. So CITS, MobILE has been a CITS large-scale deployment project coordinated by A+IDIADA, involving 37 partners from 9 European countries and having 8 deployment sites. Project started in June 2017, is ending now in May 2021, and has had a 15 million euro budget. So to start today's event, the first session will be based on MobILE results. We will start with the demo video from different services from the different deployment sites, and then we'll go through evaluation and exploitable results. After that first session, we'll continue with the panel discussion, the first panel discussion involving industry partners, cities, and user representatives, and speaking about what it comes next now that MobILE is done, what is beyond the project. Then after a short break, we will continue with more MobILE results, this time with a look into the future. So you will see the CoAMP, the new Cooperative and Urban Mobility portal that we created, and then also the strategic agenda for the next years, which will serve to introduce the last panel discussion, which will be the CITS for Sustainable Green and Digital Mobility, in which we have relevant speakers from different European groups and organizations, and topics such as CITS as key enabler, large-scale uptake, sustainable urban mobility, and new perspectives will be addressed. That's pretty much everything from my side. So thank you very much to you all for attending. I hope you enjoyed the session, and let's get started.
Thank you very much, Alex. We start first with a small video showing a little bit the taste of MobILE on the street.
We are starting shortly. We just have a little bit technical problems to start it up. Okay, I would propose while we are sorting this technical problem, let's maybe go ahead with the first session, because there's something happening right now, of course.
Sure, no problem, Jelko. So let's head over to something we are experiencing this year since 1.5 years with the live events online. Let's go with the first presentation on evaluation of cooperative systems and services by Michael de Boom, DLR. Michael, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Giacomo. So I hope everyone is able now to see my presentation.
Yes, very good.
Wonderful. Then, yeah, good morning from my side as well. I will present some selected results of our C-Mobile project. It's been 8 deployment sites and 20 services, so we cannot present everything, obviously, but I will do my best to give you an insight within the 15 minutes I got. So first of all, I'd like to introduce our evaluation methodology because this is something that is not commonly used. So I think I have to explain what we did to make you understand how the evaluation of the services work. And then I will give some insights on the impacts on the transport system and on the users, and yes, wrap up data. So what we did is investigating effects in a naturalistic environment. So there were no equipped cars with lots of sensors and no control about the conditions surrounding the users. So in contrary to a classical experimental design on a closed test track, we made evaluation plans either for having a baseline and a subsequent treatment phase, or in cases where that wasn't possible, we had intermitting evaluation plans. So a certain amount of the events was in treatment mode and a certain amount in baseline mode. And what we did is collecting data from the users, from their personal devices themselves. And yeah, these camp traces we got from them were combined with the HMI advice that was shown on their on their personal devices. And yeah, by merging these data, here we have a picture of Bordeaux, and we can see for the GLOSA services, the camp traces, and merging these data enabled us to calculate some indicators. We have here as an example the number of stops of the vehicles while approaching the intersection, and as we can see here, we have some effects that show that in treatment mode we have less stops when approaching the intersection than in baseline mode where no advice is shown. So what's our database? We got a large amount of events, as you can see here, especially a large amount for Thessaloniki, which comes from the fact that taxi drivers were recruited as users. So this is the biggest amount of data we have, but also for the other deployment sites, namely Bordeaux, Barcelona, you can see these numbers are quite good. And yeah, mainly the data comes from GLOSA and in-vehicle signage, and yeah, road hazard, roadworks warning, and yeah, the other services make a smaller share of the data. So looking at the logs that we collected, you can see down left here, these are the cumulative numbers of logs we got for baseline and treatment. And what you can see here is that you need a really large number of events for converging indicators. The indicator shown here is the average speed for IVS service in Barcelona. And you can see here at the at the end of this chart, we have stable results, and this means it's almost 20,000 events that it took to get this stability in our data. Speaking of IVS, you can see here some results from the aforementioned Barcelona data, and you can see that the maximum speed is reduced when users are given a speed limit advice, and this is effect of 5 kilometers per hour here, and even the maximum speeds go down from 52 to 48. So also speed limit violations occurred 14% less frequently. So I think we have a clear effect here in favor of the in-vehicle signage showing speed limits to the users. Going to another service, namely roadworks and road hazard warning, you can see here as well that there's an effect, looking here at the maximum deceleration, so how hard the users brake, and we can see here that with roadworks warning in Bordeaux, users of the service brake less hard than if they have no information about the roadworks. And for road hazard warning in Barcelona, we also have less hard braking events, which were defined at 3 meters per square second minus past, and we have a 57% less hard braking there, which is rather a large effect, I think. Yeah, coming to GLOSA, one of the most common or widespread service, we can say here that the results concerning the average number of stops I already mentioned is not that conclusive, but as we can see here for Barcelona, for instance, there is a good decrease in the number of stops, which also results then in less energy consumption, because if you have to brake less, you are not burning that much fuel than you would if you had to stop. The mean vehicle speed, on the other hand, is going down a little here, but as you can see for the deployment sites, there's almost no difference, and a slight effect in favor for the mean speed in Vigo. And all these differences between the deployment sites are most probably due to different app implementations. There are apps that provide only speed advice or time to green or both. And we have different deployment sites with different road network layouts and types of intersections. And of course, different user groups and driving habits. And what we found in an in-depth analysis of the data for GLOSA is, for instance, especially in Bordeaux, that in off-peak hours, so with less congested traffic, GLOSA has better effects. This also applies to intersections with a longer ingress, so the earlier the driver can get speed advice, the better he can adapt or she can adapt his or her driving, and so the service in itself works better with a longer ingress. And last but not least, of course, it helps if the intersections have a fixed signal timing, because with adaptive signal timing, the phases are changing, and then, of course, also the speed advice has to change, which makes the service less reliable. So let me summarize some further findings for other services. First of all, Green priority in North Brabant was showing that the number of stops and delays was reduced. This is a service especially for emergency vehicles, so it's not a conditional green priority, but an absolute priority for the emergency vehicle firefighters and so on. And these were granted priority up to 93% of the requests. So for police firefighters and so on, I think this is good progress in reducing their response times. For emergency vehicle warning, so the other side of the traffic of the road users, so the ones that have to give way to the emergency vehicles, if these are warned that an emergency vehicle is approaching, the drivers have to drive up to 10% slower, and slowing down earlier than usual when they are warned. For signal violation warning, there is a slight tendency of drivers to brake harder when they are warned. So yeah, if you notice that you are probably going to violate a signal, then you can also profit from this service. About motorcycle approach indication and warning system for pedestrians, there was a slight reduction in mean speeds, and delayed accelerations were also observed. So if you are made aware by the services that there is a vulnerable road user nearby that is potentially in conflict with you, then obviously the drivers tend to react accordingly. So all these findings are more or less preliminary, since we have to have larger numbers of events there. But at a first glance, I think we have a good tendency, and yeah, once the services are more widespread and there are more users providing more events, this is something that should be consolidated later on. Okay, coming from the impact assessment on the transport system, we also had some questionnaires asking the users about their experience with the services. We can see here that the number of responses is rather different, which partly depends on the number of users or downloads we have for the services, but it's not easy to tell if there was a certain response rate, because we used different ways of distributing the questionnaires from the app itself via push message or via social media and by email, especially for recruited users. So for instance, in Thessaloniki, the aforementioned taxi drivers, of course, this is a known user group, whereas let's say in Barcelona or Bordeaux, this was just published to the general public, and we had no control who the users are. So coming to the results from these questionnaires, I picked here one of the safety-related services, namely road hazard warning, and we can see for 4 deployment sites, Barcelona, North Brabant, Bordeaux, and Vigo, that the overall acceptance of the service is pretty good. And excuse me. And regarding the presentation of the information, this is more or less ideal. Let's pick out Barcelona here, for instance. Here, the roadworks warning was considered to be a little too late, whereas in Bordeaux it was considered to be a little too early. But in general, I think we have pretty good results from the user questionnaires here. Now the service I would like to show you is Glosa. Once again, we have 4 different deployment sites, and what you can see here, for instance, for Barcelona and North Brabant, we're using the same app by IDIADA, and yeah, there are pretty comparable results for the same app at different deployment sites, and so overall we have yeah, pretty good results from what the users are telling us. And we also evaluated the apps in general, not just single services. I want to show you here just an example, once again, of the IDIADA app and of the Bordeaux app from NeoGNS, since these were both deployed at different deployment sites in Brabant and Barcelona. And once again, we have quite comparable results regarding the usage of the app, and for both apps, the usability seems to be quite good. One drawback that is not really unexpected is that people like to enjoy the services, but are not really willing to pay for those. So let me wrap up. What we found so far is that some of the services yield positive impacts at certain deployment sites, might not apply for every service at every deployment site, but the results are quite promising. The effects of some services might increase under more favorable conditions, as I stated for Glosa, for instance, that profits from lower traffic densities, what is not really a surprise, but we could substantiate that with our data. And we have overall good acceptance of the services, but a low willingness to pay. So as a take-home message, or 3 take-home messages, so what we learned from the C-Mobile and then the investigations we did in a naturalistic driving environment is that this impact assessment method requires a very large number of users and a long deployment period. So we have reliable results coming from literally thousands, 10,000s of events. And what we faced is that it would make sense to unify the logging and the logging format further, and settle for common evaluation plans, just in order to ensure a higher comparability of results. Last but not least, what we experience is that social media can help to increase user engagement, but it does not necessarily guarantee a sufficient amount of social responses, as you have seen in the table. Of course, we would have appreciated if we would have had more responses, but it's not easy to reach out to the users. So with that final conclusions, I'm done, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
And indeed, there is already a first question about Glosa, for instance, which is a service which has been tested since many years. And the question is coming from Gert Blom, also a very knowledgeable person in the field. And the question is, one part for you, Michael, one part to be answered maybe later on by the class. The part which is for you is maybe the impact of Glosa. We should conclude after all that is not what we hoped for in the many years ago, and that maybe we should revise our ambitions?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure on that. If we put we want to put more effort into decarbonization and maybe rely reduce individual car driving and go more for public transportation, then the traffic densities in our urban areas should decrease. And once this is happening, maybe GLOSA could work better then. So yeah, I'm not sure if we should completely give up going for GLOSA.
Okay, we'll see also during the panel. I anticipate the second part of the question for class, but class, keep it for when it's coming your time. In the meantime, we can switch to the next presentation from Areti Kozzi on cost-benefit analysis. Thank you, Michael. The question that I anticipate for you, class, is about viable business cases for GLOSA or for other services. Of course, you will answer when it's your time. Areti, the floor is yours. Full screen, microphone, and camera on for you. Thank you.
Good morning, also from my side. I hope you can see my screen and full mode.
Very good. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Giacomo. Good morning to everyone from my side. So this part of the session is focusing on the cost-benefit analysis that we have conducted in the framework of the MobILE project. So I would like to introduce you in the steps that we went through in order to perform the cost-benefit analysis of the project. So the objective in MobILE was to conduct the cost-benefit analysis, let's say, in two steps. First, to evaluate what would be the benefits of the CADS services, and this was conducted in the scope of the ex-ante cost-benefit analysis. This is an analysis that it was conducted prior to the deployment of the services. Here we relied on literature review data and information that we managed to collect from other projects worldwide in order to rank the CADS applications based on their expected impacts and the costs that we anticipate for their operation. So the objective was there to report the results of this analysis at the beginning of the project, and in this way be able to evaluate the services prior to their deployment in order to see if we will manage to have positive results. The second step concerning the analysis was the execution of the ex-post cost-benefit analysis. So this one comes to the end of the project. The basic difference here is that we rely on real-world data. I mean the data that we will obtain from the demonstration of the services. So in this analysis, we will be able to see the real results of the project, the real benefits and the real costs that we had. And of course, we will be able to conduct an analysis and see what we had calculated in the beginning and what is the real case after the demonstration of the services. I will try to briefly describe to you the methodology that we used for the ex-ante analysis. It was a very thorough and quite hard work because we could only use literature review data, and all this data had to be modified and adapted in order to correlate to the characteristics of the MobILE project. So we performed the analysis at deployment site basis. This means that we calculated the costs and the benefits for its deployment site, including all the services that were deployed in these deployment sites. The first step was to calculate the costs. So for this one, we ran to the literature review. We collected information about investments and operation and maintenance costs of the CADS services for many projects across the Europe and also the US. And all the costs that we found, we inflated them to the 2017 levels. So these were the base year that we used for the analysis of the ex-ante CBA. So the final results was to estimate total annual costs for its deployment site And for this one, we took into account, as I said before, investors' costs using a discount rate of 4% according to the European Commission Economic Appraisal Tool for cost-benefit analysis. And also we took into account that the lifetime of all the systems using for the operation of the services would be around to 50 years. And for the vehicle types, the different ones that we have in MobILE, we relied to statistical data from ESEA. So in order to be very concise and try to cover all the areas of the costs information, we proceeded to the breakdown of the costs according to the CADS services components. So we categorized the components to the costs that are related to integration of CADS services into traffic management centers, costs for roadside units, in-vehicle devices, onboard units, mobile phones, and other personal navigation devices of the end users, such as tablets, and of course, all the costs that are related to data collection purposes. So concerning the other side of the cost-benefit analysis, which is the benefits, here we would have to rely on the impacts of the CADS services. As I said before, this is also based on the literature review. So for this one, we relied on an analysis conducted from the CADS platform on the impacts of the CADS services with projections at EU level by 2030. Of course, we could find many information about individual impact rates to many different impact areas for each CADS service, but the problem there is that we had to correlate these impact rates, which were at EU level, at deployment sites level. So we generated a scaling down methodology, statistical extrapolations, where we managed to correlate these percentages, these impact rates, with transport-related statistics from each deployment sites, and coupling this data, we were able to calculate precise as much as we could impact rates for its deployment site. So the impact areas that we were focusing on was on safety, and this means fatalities, injuries, reductions, and material damages. We also checked traffic efficiency measures. This is about speed increase, travel time reduction, and of course we checked also the perspective of the environment. This correlates to fuel consumption and pollutant emissions. The final step was to compare the costs and the benefits for its deployment side, and this was based on the calculation of the benefit-cost ratio. So for this one, we use the rating that we see here. So a benefit-cost ratio could be poor, acceptable, or excellent. So we have the best results in this case. So here you can see the results that we came through after the execution of the ex-ante analysis. You can see here the cost that we calculated for its deployment sites. As you see, we have quite a differences, but this is logical for such an analysis because, as I said in the beginning, we relied only on literature information. So all these results are basically estimates. So as I said before, the same thorough job was done for calculating the benefits of the services in each deployment site, and the final result was the calculation of the benefit-cost ratios that you see here for each deployment site. So the good news from this analysis was that almost for all deployment sites, we calculated benefit-cost ratios above 1, which is a very positive result. You might see for 2 deployment sites that we have benefit-cost ratios that are a bit lower than 1, but of course this is something that we were able to expect in such an analysis as we counted only on estimates. Proceeding with the ex-post analysis, which is an analysis that is ongoing at this stage of the project and is something that we will be able to complete by the end of this month. I would like to say a few words about the methodology that we are following and also the preliminary results that we have at this point. So we execute the ex-post analysis with the same logic, based again at its deployment site. For this one, we are using real-world data. This means that we collect the costs from all the deployment sites that this period demonstrated the CADS services. So each deployment site has provided us with installation, deployment, and demonstration costs about all the services that they were running all this period. Concerning the benefit calculations, for this one, we will rely again on real-world data. So we are using the logs that were collected from the end-user devices running the services, and using these indicators that you saw also in the prior session about from work packet 6, we are able to aggregate them and to modify them accordingly in order to find the impact rates at the different impact areas for all deployment sites. So once we do that and we multiply these numbers with monetary values, we will be able to extract also the benefits in terms of euros. And the final step would be again to calculate the benefit cost ratio. So at this point, we were able to have the information about the cost of the services. So here you can see the actual numbers. What were the costs for each deployment site after the demonstration of the services, including all the installation and all the work that had to be done about the operation and maintenance for this whole period of the large-scale demonstrations. And at this point, we were able also to extract some preliminary results on the benefits. So you can see here for some services, indicative ones, and some cities, the actual impact rates that we managed to extract based on the logs, the data that were collected from the users. So this is an ongoing work that we are still doing for all the services and all the deployment sites. And all this information will be available in the public report, the ex-post analysis that will be complete at the end of this month, and will be also available in the website of the MobILE project. So this was all from my side, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reti. Actually, there is one additional comment from Gert, which is maybe it's for you, but also for Michael. He added that actually Glosa showed higher benefits when it was combined with a green priority. So the combination of two services could yield better results and actually more improvement. What do you think about that, Arete and Michael, if you want to have a word on that?
Okay, I can start. Thank you, Gerd Blom, for this comment and this question. So yeah, I'm really agreeing with this point, because for each CADS service, we have to understand that we should anticipate the maximum benefits according to the area that we implement the service and according to the characteristics and the needs of the specific road segment. So to my opinion, it would make no sense to implement Glosa in a very congested period. But at another point of view, if you combine Glosa with green priority, at such cases you get the maximum benefits. So this is something that should be always taken into account. Combined services, and this was also something the objective of MobILE, because we introduced also the idea of providing multiple CADS services through just one application. So I think it's a very good point.
Michael?
Yeah, actually, I would prefer to forward this question to my colleague Tudor, because I guess he has better insights in the effects.
Tudor.
Thank you very much. So I agree with what Areti has said. Obviously, since we are talking about, let's say, a similar infrastructure and adding an additional service on the basis of the same investment costs can only increase or add some additional impact, and therefore get, let's say, more results for the same money. And from a perspective of the traffic, I think what we have seen so far from the Green Priority Service is that if we're talking about the conditional green priority, which doesn't apply to emergency vehicles, it kind of works well integrated with GLOSA, so it's anyway not a totally different service. So if you want to give this green priority, it has to be done in the environment of GLOSA, and it will not work in 100% of the cases. So and having green priority on top of GLOSA will help, but at the same time it will not be possible to let's say grant a green priority to every single user or vehicle passing intersection. So I think it's good to limit the expectations there, but apart from that, yes, it is obviously meaningful to combine the two.
Okay, there is one more question that I would like to take for Areti, and it's about how safety improvement is estimated, the method and assumptions.
Okay, so in the ex-ante analysis, what we done, as I said before, is that we found information about impact rates on fatalities, injuries, and material reductions from the CITS platform report. So if anyone wants to visit this report, he will be able to see very precisely for its CITS service what are these impact rates. So once you are aware of statistical data in a city, I mean, you know the number of accidents in the area that you will implement the CITS services, then you are able to apply this percentage to find out the decrease that you will have. Once you know the decrease, you automatically can calculate the monetary benefit that you will receive. So these are all based also in monetary values that are according to European Commission guidelines about cost-benefit analysis. So these are the basic logic. The difference in the ex-post analysis is that the impact rates, the decreases that you expect from its CITS service, are coming from the logging. So this one is quite a very technical and a bit complex procedure, because we will have to derive the indicators calculated from work packet 6 and aggregate them and modify them correctly to find the impact rates that we need. All this information will be included in the public report of the ex-post analysis.
Thanks a lot. And actually, the question that raised Gert about the combination of different services, different use cases into one combined, it's the bundling concept that the C-Mobile has developed. And this is actually bringing more effective services to all users. Okay, let's move to our next speaker. Klaas Rosema from DINIC will tell us about the key exploitable results in the project. Klaas, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Giacomo.
Yeah, you have to do the little trick of the, yeah, perfect.
I just did, I think.
Yeah,
okay.
very good.
Good morning, everybody. Klaas Rosema, DINIC. I want to talk about, let's say, the final stage of large-scale deployment, and that is key exploitable results. The aim of C-Mobile was to create international interoperability and large-scale deployment, but large-scale deployment doesn't only need technical solutions; it also needs an incentive to actually deploy it, and the best incentive is always tangible financial results, and therefore we focused on key exploitable results, or curves, as we call them. If you look at the traditional, conventional commercial exploitation chain, then yeah, we're talking about a challenge, a technical solution. We look if there's a positive business case, and if all of that is okay, then basically you have the right conditions for did something happen with my presentation just now? Do you still see my presentation?
Yes, we do. Exploitation chain, the societal challenge, a technical solution, and a positive business case.
Okay. I saw some funny quirks on my screen. So in a commercial environment, this is very straightforward. If you're in public environment, then it becomes a little bit more difficult. I mean, not so much the challenge, because we've got 0 fatalities, we've got carbon reduction, predictable travel time, livable cities, etc. And we can break down, try to break down those things, and then come up with partial solutions, use cases like motorway parking availability, or roadworks warning, or blind spot detection, etc. They can all contribute to achieving the goals that were mentioned. But when we get to the business case, then it becomes a little bit more complicated, because a lot of the results of these things could be considered social benefits, for that have their effect on healthcare, that have their effect on economic activity in a city or in an area, etc. But the problem is that those are intangible budgets. Normally, if you have a clear-cut business case, then somebody is used to paying a certain amount of cost for something, and then subsequently the cost goes down, and that makes it interesting to make a certain investment. With CITS, that's much less the case. It's not easy to identify a party that benefits so much from the results that they're likely to do the investment to get large-scale deployment, and therefore the incentive is low, as we have already experienced in the last couple of years. So, what to do about it? Well, what we did is that we tried to approach it in a holistic way, and that means that we try to approach it from a business model perspective, with all actors that are pertaining to a certain business model are, let's say, involved. This is a method that has been developed by the Technical University of Eindhoven. And what you're currently looking at is called the business model radar. And as you can see in here, all the actors that are, let's say, relevant to a certain goal, and in this case, it is decreased traffic through inner city, through green priority and GLOSA, and so on. And what you do here is you look at each and every one of them to see what the benefits may be for them to participate. And first you do an analysis of everybody who's involved, and then you look at benefits and what they would have to bring to contribute to the case, etc. So what their added value is, to see if you potentially have something that you could proactively try to deploy. And so instead of what is normally done, if a product is ready, then make it available to the market, and wait for somebody to become enthusiastic about it and comes up with an idea. You come with a complete package to the market, and which means that you will also be approaching all of these parties proactively. We've done this for 10 different business models, for which we have had extensive discussions with all the parties involved to talk to them whether the assumptions that we had about what the benefit could be, if that really would be realistic, if they would be open to discussions about an approach like this. A very intensive and elaborate process, but very interesting as well. So therefore we came up with 10 of these radars, but of course it's easy to have a discussion on what may be possible, etc. But the next step is to try to see whether, if you really put it into the real world, what is happening then. And that's the next step in the process. So it's the business model financial validation. And you do that by, let's say, creating a set of parameters, which you see in the right-hand top corner of this slide. So things like cost of accidents, monitoring costs for platforms, etc. But also an assumption of, let's say, the fees that have to be paid between the partners in the model, because in order for everybody to have sufficient benefit to be incentivized to participate, they have to have a clear benefit. So all of those parameters are in that list, and then subsequently the boxes that you see below that, those are spreadsheet for each and every partner in there, and based on the parameters, they will have to produce a real positive result. Otherwise, the business model is not valid. So we went through that process for all of these 10 business models, and we're able to validate them. One nice detail that I would like to point out is that if you look at the actual radar that I'm using in here, which is another one than the one on the previous slide, this is safe driving experience via in-vehicle warning. If you look at the actor on the far left, then you see that there's an insurance company there. Well, that is not typically something that would pop up in a mobility project. Normally, we would stick to the conventional actors in there, and then often you run into the problem that you're not able to make a business model viable. But if you see how much money, for example, is involved in healthcare that relates to incidents, etc., or insurance with respect to vehicles and so on, then all of a sudden there's much more funding available to make a business model viable, and the overall cost of a kind of approach like that will make the overall societal costs go down considerably. So it's indeed a very interesting exercise, which will probably take its challenges to get it implemented, but at least we have been able to show that the possibilities are there. Well, after this, let's say we've only proven the financial validation of the business model. There's one more step to go, and that is really validate whether the business model is suitable as being occur. And for that, we did 3 more things. First of all, a market analysis, because if for individual cases something will stick, then still the market has to be big enough for, let's say, commercial companies to be prepared to invest, because it takes a certain amount of time and a certain amount of volume to recover your investment. So we did market analysis for each and every one of them. We thought about a strategy, and that relates to the fact that this is not straightforward going into the market. We have things like tender laws and so on, and this does not really fit the model with that respect. And then in the end, for each and every one of them, we did SWOT analysis to try to weed out the last obstacles that could possibly be there, which would cause problems in implementing one of these curves. And if all of those boxes would be ticked, then we're at the stage of CUR. Then let's say the business model has become a key exploitable result. So we've done our homework now, but it also has to be brought to the market. And for that, we had the commercial partners of the project made an analysis of all the curves. And what you see there is that although all the curves are valid in their own right, not each and every commercial partner organization is fully in touch with the specific market where the curve would apply. So what happened is that the commercial partners have made a choice of the curves that would be applicable to them, and to some that were 4 or 5, some almost all of them. But it is a choice, of course, and it is based on a strategy that they would be able to develop for it. So for each and every one of them, in that whole, they've made a strategy for applying business models in this way, looking at channels, looking at partners, and eventually resulting in a selection of a group of curves that would be suitable for them, and consequently create a roadmap for deploying them into the market and thinking about how to make this known to the public. That was done in let's say for the selected curves, and then for each and every one of the curves that were selected, everybody made an individual strategy, analyzing their target market, looking at the added value that could be created, having another look at the competitors that would be there, what kind of pricing you would need, and the timetable to roll it out into the market. So this is basically where we are currently in the process. So most of this work has been done, and now we are at the stage that let's say the approach should be materialized. And as I already mentioned before, this is not easy because there are no tenders currently that allow a coordinated approach like this. So an additional challenge here is that ways need to be found to make proposal constructions that will fit somehow into the current tendering process, because there's always public parties involved in processes like this as well, and that is definitely a challenge, and that is also not something that is obvious on how exactly to do that. Having said that, it is definitely worthwhile to look into this uncharted territory, because if we look at the preliminary results that can be gotten from that, and the possibilities that you have in terms of funding with a broader stakeholder group for the activities, make it definitely worthwhile to explore that route, because it just gives you that extra incentive that I think that we need to be able to further the deployment of CITS into the market. And with that, I conclude the contribution for the key exploitable results presentation.
Klaas, thank you very much. You have condensed in few minutes really a lot of work carried out by you, by the partners, by Technical University of Eindhoven. Really complex and work and also complex concepts and challenging ideas. Can you please reply? There is a question by Gert Blom again. And the question is about, oops, I apologize. What use case, oh, sorry. I agree that insurance companies could play an important role in coming to sound business case. Same, for example, for mobility as a service or other cases. However, I did not see them to be very active in mobility innovation. Did you get concrete support or confirmation from insurance companies for this concept in C-Mobile? And if so,
Yes.
would
Yes.
this work in financial streams when involving insurance companies? This is the first question.
Yeah, well, there's nothing in the proposal for the business models with parties that we have not talked to. So it's not just ideas. We actually talk to parties, and to a certain extent and under certain conditions, they may be interested. But there's always a lot of different angles to something, for example, and because it's also not always easy to comprehend how the internal models of stakeholders work, and let's say sometimes an obvious cost saving may have other consequences that are not directly interesting to them. There's more to it than just the simple case. But the answer, whether we talk to them, yes.
Very good, thanks. And did this exercise allow to identify, I don't know, priority target groups for commercial exploitation? Beside public authorities' investment, are there people who are, I mean, organizations, public or private, or even end users who are willing to pay for the service or are willing to invest in these solutions?
Yeah, it is, let's say we did not succeed in getting people to pay for GLOSA, for example, but what you do in this kind of exercises is you always look for somebody that actually benefits. For example, if you look at truck priority, for example, you could say that an incentive from the local authority is to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, which is one of those soft, intangible budgets that I was talking about in the beginning. But the flip side of that is that if there's less carbon dioxide, it means that much less fuel has been burned, and that all of a sudden becomes a tangible budget for logistics company, and that is what you need to look for. Who is actually financially benefiting from this sufficiently to make this work? And then you have to bring together a number of stakeholders that share something like that, and that the common result that's coming out of that is sufficiently interesting for them to participate in.
Yeah, actually, when it comes to the users, I would say there is the perception that there is a free meal, like you get a service that nobody apparently pays, but in the end, the citizens and users are paying with their data, with being profiled. This is not the case for cooperative ITS services because we are GDPR compliant. But of course, this will be something that will have to be addressed, and the concept with the business model rather that has been developed, I think, highlights investment and gains for all the actors involved. So the multi-stakeholders functioning partnership that you were referring to. There is actually a question from, yes, please. Yeah, there is a question. Well, there is an initial comment that Oktay Turetken was largely contributed to this work as written, and I read the comment of Oktay as a response to Gert's question. Insurance company have recently started looking for such new models to expand the value propositions. For instance, we are currently working with large insurance company on a pan-European initiative on mass, and they are very active in this. And actually, I like also to take the contribution from a former colleague at Ertico, who is very knowledgeable, Thomas Deysels, and actually he has understood, he has actually evidence that in other initiatives, insurance companies, they are already applying on the market up to 10% discount on the insurance fee when some other services are present in the vehicle. So it's really also is highlighting a question of a chicken and egg problem when the public authority invest in the infrastructure, in making available the services, who gets the benefits. So I don't know if you want to add any comment on that, but I wanted to read this out loud for everyone to listen to.
Yeah, no, it's a very valid addition from Octave. Thank you for that. It just shows that there's a very wide possibility. I mean, I was just joking about not being able to get people to pay for GLOSA, but if you extend this method, then let's say everybody is paying insurance premium for the healthcare and so on. I mean, if the whole thing is becoming cheaper, then people will notice. There's a lot of cost involved in accidents for the city as well. I mean, having to take care of the results, the emergency services, all that sort of stuff. And the only problem is that that for the average citizen, that is so intangible that there's hardly motivation for them to start doing or using things. So the best way to approach that probably is to try to find a couple of commercially viable solutions, usually involving commercial companies, that will create a certain amount of inclusion of the general public. I mean, if you have private cars that do not want to use GLOSA, which are slotted in between trucks who have GLOSA with truck priority, then the rest of the public will start using that as well. So there's lots of possibilities.
Very good. And keeping an eye on time, I would ask you, class, to maybe there is another question, if you could reply in writing, and we go and try again to play the demonstration video so that you get the feeling of these services on the street.
Okay.
Thank you. Very good. I hope you enjoyed the video, and you will be able to see it also again on internet. Now we move to the next part, and there is a panel, and the panel is about what's next. So cooperative ITS beyond C-Mobile, a panel discussion with presenting perspectives from the industry, public authority, and end users on about future of CITS, the future of CITS, and how this can be improving mobility. Please turn on your camera and your microphone. Klaus Rosema as a moderator, Ray King from Newcastle, Tamara Goldstein from Helmond, Olivier Lenz from FIA, André Perpey, NeoGLS, Laura Coconea Svarco, and Mats Rosenqvist from Volvo. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, everybody, welcome to this panel with a title From Pre-Deployment to the Market, Future is Now. As already mentioned, my name is Klaus Rosema. I'm Research Director for DINIC, and I'm Exploitation Manager for C-Mobile. We have a 30-minute session today in which I would like to have discussion based on the questions that I will ask the panelists and questions from the audience. So if the audience has any questions, please use the chat to ask any questions. We have a panel with a nice representation of the stakeholders in CITS. We have the market, we have users, local authorities, and automotive industry. And I would like to ask each of the participants to introduce themselves with a short statement on the title of the session. Session. So, Ray, if I can start with you.
Just Glass, just one second. I don't know if it's just me, but we don't see cameras right now. Okay, now fine. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Ray King, Newcastle City Council and Traffic Manager for the wider area of Tyne and Wear. Yeah, clearly, as in the previous presentation, CITS has a lot of benefits societal-wise, but from my point of view, it's got to be delivered in a way where it's accessible to all. It can't be about equipping the most profitable bus routes or only being accessible by vehicles that got the latest tech. So it's got to be for the vulnerable road users and properly accessible.
Okay, thank you very much, Ray. I'd like to go to Tamara now.
Yes, Klaus, thank you. My name is Tamara Goldstein. I work for the City of Helmond as a program manager on mobility. And in our city, we work for already like 10, 15 years to see how technology can help us to solve our mobility challenges. In Helmond, we have, yeah. Okay.
No, you can go on.
Okay. Yeah, in Helmond, for instance, with CITS, we started 10, 15 years ago because one of our main challenges is that we have a big regional road going directly through Helmond, also connecting the city center. And on that road, we have a lot of traffic and also a lot of regional heavy-duty traffic. And this road divides the city into two parts, a northern and southern part. So there's also several intersections to have also pedestrians and cyclists crossing. And the traditional ways like a tunnel were not feasible and are still not feasible for several reasons, among others the financial ones. And with our partners in the automotive campus, which is also situated in Helmond, we start thinking like, how can we deal with all this traffic on this road and these intersections a long time ago. So focusing on what is the topic of this section, I really do think that CITS can help us achieving our goals on mobility and sustainability and livability of our city.
Okay, thank you, Tamara. Oliver, will you go next?
Yes, thank you, Klaas, and yeah, also from my side. My name is Olivier Lenz. I work for the FIA. We are an association of motoring clubs, and therefore also representing the view from the users. We have been involved in C-Mobile as CITS is addressing a lot of issues, concerns in traffic that we have today when it comes to traffic management, congestion, increasing congestion, but also environmental sustainability and road safety. And we see in CITS, let's say, some solutions that can be, let's say, applied and that can help to make our mobility easier. And I think coming to the title of this session, C-Mobile has, like the previous project, Compass 4D, really created a basis for ensuring the technical viability of the technology, and on getting partners to work together towards that. I think what is needing next is really the deployment, and to look into, let's say, what is needed there, where are the concerns, where are the blocks that, let's say, prevent the further deployment, and therefore also to increase the benefits for all, and therefore for the users.
Okay, well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, Oliver. So thank you very much for your introduction. Then I would like to go to Mats.
Okay, Mats Rosenqvist at the Volvo Group. That's the with focus on commercial vehicles, trucks, buses, mainly. So that's I'm working in a unit, more a central unit for the Volvo Group, working with public partnerships. We see the increasingly importance of working in partnerships, of course, European projects, but also taking the next step towards working together with our customers, with suppliers, with the society. And in this case, there is a kind of a, as you also demonstrated, Klaas, in your picture here, is the complexity here, the many stakeholders, really how to work in this kind of environment, how to identify the benefit and the cost for, and who will invest in what. So I think that's the where we are working in and trying to promote. And I'm also then active in this new European public partnership for CCAM, or the Connected Cooperative Automated Mobility, and as a cluster leader for Cluster 1, which large-scale demonstrators to really run pilots, FOTs, and living labs. So I think that would be one of the elements. So that's okay. Thanks for inviting me to this.
Very interesting, Mats. Andre.
Yes, hi, Andre. So I'm the CEO of NeoGLS. So we are an IT company in CITS, deploying a material and a software in this domain since 2012. I wanted to continue on what Oliver just said. That I agree that now we have to go to deployment, and just to put a technical vision in this, C-Mobile, in my opinion, permitted a big step forward, especially concerning the architecture which has been put in place, especially for cities. This new architecture, innovative architecture, permitted to have real interoperability between cities and services in different cities. And for me, this is a big step forward for the next upcoming deployments in the next years. Especially that thanks to this, and this is really, seems pretty crazy today, an app which has been developed in one country can easily be deployed in another city just like that, with just some small adaptations. It can be deployed. So this is for me a good starting point for the next deployments in the next years, and this thanks to C-Mobile.
Okay, thank you, Andre. And last but not least, Laura.
Thank you. So my name is Laura Hukorna. I come from Swarco, where I'm heading innovation across the ITS division. And we as Varco work since more than 15 years on CITS, and we strongly believe that this is a fundamental component when it gets to road safety, because through CITS you are able to increase the awareness side of the vehicles, and also for network optimization by including, let's say, the vehicle into the traffic management loop. TM 2.0 will also be a topic later today, I know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lara. Thank you all for your opening statements. I would now like to go to the first question, and I would like to pose it to Andre. And the question is that CITS is closely connected to investments in modern mobility infrastructure. What would still be needed to develop the necessary physical and digital infrastructure in Europe, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, it is true that that we have been deploying CITS in different cities and road authorities in the last years, and every time it's the same issue concerning. Let's start with the physical part. Often the existing physical infrastructure is not adapted, or is maybe a little bit too old in some cases, and does not permit to have access to CITS services or deployments. For example, there's no internet deployed in the city, or the traffic light controller does not permit communication directly with it, because it is too old, and at that time, of course, CITS was nothing known, so of course it was not integrated into the systems. So on the physical side, this seems to be the issue in some cases, and of course, well, yeah, I guess money is needed to upgrade all of this equipment in order to have it compatible with CITS. But it's not the only thing that is necessary. Also, of course, on the digital side, and maybe this is the one where there's the most work. For CITS to work, we need to have access to data, and to have access to data, there has to be some kind of links with the data provided by the road operators or the cities in their local platform or with their local systems. And often it is difficult to have access to this data because the platforms are or closed, or the format that is used is not compatible with CITS systems, or it is pretty difficult to make the link between the two. Like, for example, just take one example, for traffic light controllers. Traffic light controllers, every country has its own standard. In France, it's DAZR, for example, and it doesn't provide natively the data we need for example, GLOSA or green priority. They have to add new algorithms to the DAZR format to be able to provide to us the data which is necessary for the service. So there's still some work to do, I would say, to maybe standardize the messages that these systems have to provide to the CITS world, so that the deployment can go in a more smooth way without passing every time many months to adapt these controllers every time. So, for example, I know in France and in Europe, they're insisting today to propose formats like DATEX2 in some cases, which can be used for accidents, roadworks, and things like that. And that this is a standard which is being provided, and what people would like to use in CITS. It's going to be one solution, and maybe also maybe create some open source standards for data discussions with traffic light controllers or other systems that could maybe be used in all cities and all systems around Europe.
Thank you, Andre. Any other of the other panelists, any thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, well, what in the Netherlands, what is really helpful is that we have here the Talking Traffic program. So that's at least in the Netherlands helpful to have for one set of standards for for everyone in the Netherlands. And the Netherlands, we organized in the token traffic program the whole chain which is necessary from the signal coming from the vehicle to the traffic light controller and back, and also a description of use cases. So I think that can be helpful. Also in other companies to have a national program, or maybe the European Commission coming with something like that.
And Belgium has recently also adopted the same standard. So and that means that automatically you have controllers on the street that are able to give all that kind of CITS information. Okay, thank you, Andre. Well, while you were talking, Tamara, the next question is yours.
It's mine, okay.
And again, about physical and digital infrastructure. There's a cost to what Andre was just describing, and those high costs apparently have been a barrier to CITS deployment. Do you think that is still the case? And do you have any ideas about who should bear the costs for the deployment to be sustainable? And could maybe transport charges be restructured to reflect this cost? Do you have any ideas, any thoughts on that?
Yes, Klaas, I do have. From, let's say, road authorities perspective, I just already mentioned the token traffic program in the Netherlands, and that program gives us at least some support in making our traffic light controllers suitable for CITS and other solutions. So I think that is really helpful for the road authorities to get ready for CITS. That stimulates. When I look at the users, I have, on the one hand, I do think we need to focus on like exploitable business and use cases. And that also showed C-Mobile that some of the services gives more advantage than the other ones. And what I sometimes make it look like is like with the navigation system. We saw in the first presentation today that not many people would like to pay for the closer services, but on the other hand, they also don't have that many advantages. When I look at like green priority, we see a lot of advantage there. So I think when the advantage is clear, you might also want to pay as a user. And sometimes not only when the advantage is clear, but also for convenience. When I look at navigation, when navigation pops in, everyone did buy a device. Even customers did buy a device, or to the same service you could also have when just using a map. But then, of course, it's much more convenient that you don't have to look at the map or rely on a co-driver who's navigating, but having a system. And everyone did want to pay for that. So then I really wonder, when we all did pay, now it's most of the times on your smartphone or in your car already. But in the beginning, we just paid for the device, and especially for professional users, like truck drivers, which we gave GLOSA and green priority services in Helmond. I think, when you invest in some kind of systems, and when we all did invest in the navigation devices, why shouldn't we then also want to invest in, for instance, an onboard unit or a service contract? And we also have our services for streaming music and movies. So why not for CITS? And I think also what might the deployment be more helpful is that we bundle service, or we bundle it with other systems like navigation. And of course, we now sometimes have the free apps, but we also have variants you need to pay for. And when you still have, when I go to my garage with my car for updating of the navigation system, I also have to pay. So I think on the one hand, no, there is no cost, shouldn't be a hinder to deploy. On the other hand, I think stimulating things can be helpful. The stimulating program for authorities, facilitate authorities with standardization things is important. The C-Mobile architecture is important to have the same service being available everywhere. But on the other hand, we also stimulate, like say, electrical driving in the Netherlands with our taxis. So maybe, and also when as a city, when you want to use it as a traffic management instrument, I also can imagine that you maybe want to do something and stimulate your local users to use the systems.
Okay. Any of the other panelists want to chip in on this one? Laura?
Yeah, just a quick thought here, connecting to what Tamara was saying. I believe that creating awareness, mass awareness for the final users could also help here. And maybe, yeah, cities and industry could team up in creating events and so on for the diffusion of benefits and more communication related to CITS, because usually the general public is really not aware and not familiar to what this actually means or enables.
Okay, maybe we should just put it mandatory in all vehicles, etc. Then we would take care of it. Oliver, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to support what Tamara was saying. I think that basically the answer lies in the benefits. The benefits in, let's say, for all the users, not only the drivers, of course for them, but also for local authorities who where CITS can support them in implementing their policies. At the end, if you look at all the benefits from CITS, it's about improving road safety. Road safety has a cost, and by, let's say, implementing CITS, you can reduce that cost. So there you have a business case. You can improve air quality, you can improve energy efficiency, you can improve traffic management, reduce congestion. All that has a value, and I think that's what you have shown also in analyzing the cost benefit. So in a certain way, I think that let's say the deployment of CITS, and of course that needs to be confirmed, and let's say the benefit has to be clarified. But I think that this cost can be borne through the benefits that the technology brings. Now, of course, I fully understand that at the end somebody has to pay for the technology in the first place, and that, let's say, the costs which are reduced in other places. When it's about road safety, it's let's say it's the users who have a damage, or it's the public authorities or the insurance companies, and so it's not always the same pot. And I think what is important to realize there as well is that we are all, as taxpayers, paying for mobility, for having an efficient mobility. And if you then compare, let's say, what taxpayers are paying on one side and what is respent on the mobilities on the other side, there's still a big gap. So there's still a big margin between those two. I think there's if I remember well, let's say a surplus of billions of euro, of hundreds of billions of euro, which are now, let's say, spent on let's say road safety or other means. So I think that, let's say, there's really let's say a case for CITS, and this really needs to be taken into account when, let's say, when looking at the cost benefit and when trying to deploy the technology.
Thank you for that response. Mats, you want to say something?
Well, I think we also In the work we do in the CCAM partnership and also in the AirTrack working group for connected automated driving, we see that there is important also to kind of take a stepwise approach, like you increase kind of what we call the operational domain. So if you kind of start in, like you see, automation is starting in confined areas on highways. So it's important to, I think, to limit the scope in not talking about everything. Maybe the most complex environment is the urban environment. It could be good to take a stepwise approach, maybe, and also be aligned with the infrastructure. If you need infrastructure investments, we have in the working group, we also work with CEDAR in order to take an introduction. If maybe you introduce CITS technology, equip a stretch of a highway, and then you can at the same time then balance this with available vehicles and identify the benefit to really prove this. And in our community with commercial vehicles, they're very cost sensitive, of course, but also if they see a benefit, you can actually see a quite rapid pickup of technology if they can see an increase of efficiency or safety, productivity. That what we discuss in the trucking or also in the public transport with buses system. I think to approach the private market, it's very different. Then it's other drivers that takes on really the combination of services. It could be different. So that's my take on this. But there are, I think, opportunities to run this kind of demonstration, continue doing pilots, continue doing also using this living lab concept really to try to see this. It's a long road really to convince. I mean, we're working with CITS since too many years actually but I think it's important now we have the established platform. We have European standards. There's not really a technology issue, it's more the packaging and find this right solution and the right users. Then we can really do this. So yeah, that's my take.
Thank you much. Really interesting discussion. In the interest of time, I want to try to look at let's say at the topic from a couple of different angles. I had a question for Oliver, but he already more or less answered that just in his response to Tamara. So I would like to go to Ray, and there's a question about barriers. Let's say we've been looking at CITS now for a long time, as Mats just mentioned. I think it goes for all of us that we've been in this domain for 10 years or more by now. And we all really want to get it started. We all see the benefits, etc., and we do not really understand always why that is not happening. So Ray, what do you see as the most important barriers for implementation at the moment? And do you have any ideas on overcoming those barriers? What is your organization doing about it? And what would you want others to do about it?
Well, yeah, bearing in mind we're limited with time, it's a very big question, but it's already been alluded to before.
We take it up to 30 minutes.
Yeah, so yeah, for operators, fleet operators, to invest in onboard units or additional equipment, the proposition isn't that good if we're only equipping part of our network. And so really we need it to be rolled out from our side a lot more extensively. And as Andre said, lights, traffic signals, a lot of the equipment isn't actually compatible or wasn't compatible. And in Newcastle, we're now upgrading somewhere in the region of, well, regionally 500 signal controllers, so they will be compatible, so they will be able to feed out the data, the SPAT data that can be consumed. And I think the way we need to overcome this is maybe move away from the onboard units for the wider use, and do have it app-based and Internet of Things. And yeah, we're investing a lot in traffic signals. It's not just for CITS, but general maintenance and the way we control the network to meet our other policy aims. So it is not at risk, but we are investing a lot to do that. And again, it's promoting these bundles of use cases where we're looking at vulnerable user groups or improving public transport offer, especially if we build back out of this pandemic. So there's a lot of potential now to move this forward quite quickly, I feel.
Okay, thank you, Ray, for your take on this one. I would like to look at the topic, given the time, from a couple of other angles. So maybe if somebody wants to respond to Ray's statement, we can do that later on. I would like to go to Laura and talking about the benefits that we currently experience from CITS, and how can we incentivize, let's say, public authorities and support them in tackling this challenge. You have any ideas on that?
Yeah, so since we have a time issue, I will try to focus everything on one main idea. I guess from our side as CITS service providers, from an industry point of view, we really need to focus now on the quality of the service, on the reliability. Maybe Mats can confirm this, but I believe that on the vehicle side, it's really fundamental to understand how robust and reliable the services are, and also on the coverage. And there we need to cooperate among actors, because usually the ITS business tends to be very local. So I would say from our side, in also to support deployment, we now need to focus on quality, reliability, and coverage of the services.
Okay, and how can we support local authorities in accomplishing that?
For sure, we can we can share more the knowledge, because the experts, we tend to work on this on a daily basis, so we can share more, support more, consult more, and yeah, try to cooperate in order to experiment our R&D developments in a real life environment, and show, yeah, on-site benefits and how this behaves in the real life.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Laura. You already mentioned you're making a nice bridge about vehicle manufacturers, etc. And luckily we have one in our session. So I have a question for Mats as well. Sorry. Let's say it would seem like there's a certain reluctance in the industry to invest at this moment, because what we already talking about earlier with Tamara's statement is everybody getting apps and so on. If it would be widely implemented in the vehicles already as of the factory, then that would also make an enormous boost. Of course, there's uncertainty about regulations and so on in the future. What, from your perspective, will the future look like from the automotive industry? What will they be doing in the future in deployment of CITS?
Well, I mean, as I mentioned also from the commercial vehicle side, then you need to really show the benefit. We need to have the customers really how they need to. So it's kind of a different. It's difficult to ask someone to invest in something that is. You really need to show the benefit, and it's not really. We are not we are not here to just provide. So it's a kind of the combination of the whole package. So like Laura mentioned, also we need to. There is a skepticism about the quality. Will this really work? So it's kind of the combination of things here, and so, but it takes time to convince and to show the benefit, and we know as consumers we are kind of before it happens, but then suddenly it's kind of you see and suddenly it's all over the place. Like navigation systems in the beginning was too expensive, and who should invest in this? Today it's in every car, in every phone. So I think it's just so it's more continue this, but we also need to work on with the users. We need to again show this, demonstrate it, pilot it, and maybe bring it to the living lab dimension. We need to really run it in true operation. Like this project, it's a good step, but we need to take next step really. So and this of course always difficult, but
let's say you're in the commercial vehicles, and there are a couple of things that are of course very interesting to the customers of those. Safety, yeah. You don't want to have accidents in blind spots and so on. You want to reduce the fuel consumption, so I would guess the platooning is interesting, blind spot detection is interesting, etc. Is there a big incentive within the industry to be able to use CITS as a tool to provide those solutions? Or so let's say if there was less uncertainty about regulations, whether it is compliant everywhere and so on, would there be a bigger push in the industry to pursue that line?
Well, I think things are happening, but again, maybe we haven't found a real recipe yet. So maybe the services we are working on, maybe. So I think it's still. Maybe we also, but now we are all undergoing a fantastic shift. The electrification also of commercial vehicle is, I've never seen this rapid change really. The last 5 years we go, now cars suddenly we have seen and the electrification also bring in a new generation of vehicles, and we also have the automation activities, even if that can be more coming down to a kind of a more realistic level to really show this. So I don't have a clear answer really, but I think still the user groups they're very pragmatic people, and from the commercial or public operators, you need to really show the benefit. You need to be persistent and continuing spitting on the stone kind of activity. So that's my take on this, and there are things happening. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for your insight, sharing your insights, Mats. Giacomo, I think we already are over our 30 minutes. Do we still have time to take a couple of questions from viewers, or should I wrap up?
I would say let's move on because we're already beyond schedule, even beyond the break that we planned. I would like to thank everyone, and please do your closing, and let's move to the next.
Okay. Well, it must have been because it was an interesting.
You can answer some questions in writing so that the questions from the audience will be answered, and in any case will be published.
Okay. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of this session. Then I would like to thank the audience for being with us today, and of course I would like to thank all the panelists. It was very brief, very condensed, but I still think that we had a couple of interesting discussions. So I want to thank you for that, and thank you for sharing your views on the topic. So thank you all, thank you everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. A very, very intense panel discussion indeed. I will move on directly to the next presentation because we are, for the sake of time, I will skip the break. I hope you bear with us. Still that you are still many, almost 140 there. So thank you for being with us, for coping with us. I would like to share my screen now and show you another achievement of the C-Mobile project, and this is what we have called in the beginning CITS framework, and then we renamed Cooperative Urban Mobility Portal. Why this name? Because actually over the past years, since the project was conceived in 2016, there's been a lot of evolution, and we have been constantly looking at to the field and to the evolution which has been ongoing, not only within the Commission, not only within the ITS community, but really also in the society. So we have taken the C-Mobile project has set up a stakeholder forum involving public authorities, different market players from the industry, from the service, from the mobility providers, but also end users, road users, so for instance, cyclist associations or truck drivers, associations or fleet or public transport operators. These in all the cities, and we have connected actually, you see there are 8 deployment sites, which means 9 cities in C-Mobile. We have connected to 30 to 35 more cities external to the project, and this has brought us a lot of insights, a lot of learning, and we have invested in creating a portal which is stemming from the project, but which is living behind the project, and which will be keeping the step from cooperative ITS, go towards connected and cooperative mobility, and evolve with the time. So this is something that is an inheritance of the project. What is the purpose of this portal? Actually, the objective of this portal, it's all condensed in this landing page. It's really connecting you to future mobility already now, and that's been making urban mobility more efficient, safer, and greener, thanks to digital solutions based on connected and cooperative technology. So we want to create awareness, we want to provide guidance and support for you the adoptions of cooperative mobility solutions by understanding what is CITS, which you see here, and CITS, and also the other digital mobility solutions that will be coming up in the future, understanding which services have been deployed successfully, and including having reference contacts, reference experience, both in relation to the service deployed, to the service providers. So some of them have spoken in the first panel, but more of them are there, but also to the cities who have invested even for decades in urban deployments of cooperative services. Newcastle, Elmond, who have just spoken, are examples of those cities, but there are, again, as I said, more cities. In particular, in C-Mobile, in the framework of C-Mobile, at least 9 cities. Understanding also what it takes to deploy, what it takes to implement, and then stimulating you as a public authority to take the step to take the challenge to deploy cooperative, connected and cooperative mobility solutions, and reach out other transport authorities and vendors for additional support before. So you go and you decide for the actual investment, and while you are doing, and so this is actually our target audience for this portal. It's not just a simple website; it's really a portal which wants to bring you forward, as you can see from the arrow above the bicycle on the screen. And again, the benefits is about information, is about connecting with the partners, exchanging information, knowledge, experience, practical field experience from real life deployments, but also when you would like to take the challenge to deploy, become an actor. So join as a city or as a deployment service provider, and we want to supply with you with also we want to provide you with guidance, and the guidance, as I said, is a library documentation, for instance, about architectures, business models, and also thanks to the work that has been to some extent presented, but which also goes much more deeper into details, which has been presented by class, also about business models, business plan, key exploitable market outcomes, but also tutorials which have been developed by the project for the road users and for the public authorities. And then before you can, in order to make you able to really understand in depth really what it takes to implement, provide for the first time, I have not seen, would be like, if there is any other evidence, I would like to be corrected, but to my understanding, to our understanding, there is no real publication of data. We only have examples, we found examples from the US, and we have connected from US Department of Transport. And we have connected. We want to make available data, also common data log format, so that those data that we were mentioning, standards like DATEX, that Andrea mentioned before, but other standards are also available. So, but we want to have everything interoperable so that the services are available to everyone and everywhere and continuously. So, and for this we have also put there not only samples data and also evaluation data, evaluation which has been presented by Michael to some in the main highlights of the findings of the project, but also to tools, which are, some of them are experimental tools, some others are already commercially available tools from the partners. You see, so the invitation is with this today for everyone, for all the cities to join us in taking this challenge. First, in understanding and what is and what are the benefits and what it takes to deploy, but also to take the challenge and become an ambassador. But this invitation is equally brought forward to technology partners. And as you can see, technology partners are not only market players, of course they are, but also are research institutes, research institutions like CERT, CTAG, HTW, SAR, TNO, DLR, Tech University of Eindhoven, Newcastle University, and many more, which we hope, with the support possibly of the Commission, to have with us in joining this effort. So with this, I would like to invite you to visit the website. It's still some, we are still doing some last fixings and completing. So when you visit the different pages, you will see a different outlook. But it's something that we are fixing in the very next days, and the portal it's already operational, but will be fully finalized in the very next days. And with this, I don't know if there are questions. Yes, I see there are questions, but I would like to hand over to my colleague Jelko, and then we take the questions all together. Please, Jelko, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Giacomo. Good afternoon or good morning still to everybody. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about the work that we have done on so-called strategic agenda. I hope that you can all see my screen. Now, strategic agenda is a topic, and it's also a report that we are finalizing right now from the C-Mobile partners, where we have looked into what is the outlook for the CITS field, not only for the outcomes of the C-Mobile project, but the overall CITS field when we are going forward. And there was a couple of colleagues that were mentioning that they've been working in the CITS field for many years. I personally started in 2006 at that time with CVIS project, and that is now, if I calculate quickly, 17 years ago. And we know that we are in Europe sometimes very slow with it taking up new technologies like eCall. It took us 2 decades. CITS, we almost there to 2 decades. We don't have it widely deployed. Hopefully, we are going to be going much faster forward. But the world is also changing, and this is exactly why strategic agenda is there. The world is changing from the perspective that only a few years ago, when we were building up the C-Mobile project, environment, let's be honest, was not something that us as transport professionals were taking as the top priority. I mean, it was always something that we said was important, but still road safety was above everything, and many other elements were more important in the real life. And let's face it as well, I mean, as a transport community, not only in Europe, but worldwide, we don't have a really good track record of being sustainable, environmentally sustainable. So now the Green Deal coming up, and we all seeing the effects of the climate change, we need to decarbonize by 2050 and to reduce our carbon emissions by at least 55% up to 2030. Tremendous challenge, but also tremendous opportunity. So this is also why we need to see how we can pivot the results and the work of the CITS field, not only of the C-Mobile, towards this great opportunity. Because right now, when we are discussing with cities, there's a lot of discussion about having less traffic, less parking spaces in some cases, more cycling, as an example. We also have the field of mobility as a service that is coming up. We're also going to talk about automation. How does this connect to the CITS, etc.? So the world that was there at the beginning of the C-Mobile project is quite different one today, and it is going to be very different in a couple of years from now as well, with all of the changes that we are seeing. So the Green Deal gives us 2 big opportunities for the field of CITS, as we have seen from discussions internally in the project, but we will also want to continue these discussions also with you, everybody in the audience, and much wider. So one thing is, of course, the very important aspect of making the transport and mobility more efficient. So the vehicle movements through intersections, as an example, we need to show the results as we have done as well from, for example, Glossa or other services that we can actually support in reducing CO2 footprint from the transport. The second thing is that we have not spoken so much about this far, is also that CITS has to also expand and go beyond the element of just being here for the vehicles and drivers. It also needs to support all of the other road users. And we are going to be hearing a little bit about the work from Copenhagen on this element as well. So Green Deal overall is a great opportunity for CITS, because as we also heard from our evaluation colleagues, from Michael, Glossa and many of our other optimization services will simply not work if we are stuck in congestions. It doesn't matter what kind of advice you provide to a driver when he's stuck in a traffic jam and cannot move. Basically, the impact of ITS becomes much lower in those severe conditions. So if we allow ourselves to have less congestions through different ways, less cars on the road, more balanced traffic, the CITS services will also be able to provide more benefits. Now, when we also look at what cities are thinking and how they are going forward with addressing the air quality, but also the Green Deal and decarbonization, from Vertico side, we are in the process of running our city moonshot, where we are interviewing 300 cities on sustainability topics, air quality and climate change, on data sharing and mobility as a service. And a couple of these questions that we are asking are, of course, related also to CITS. And the preliminary data from these interviews with the cities shows us that 62% of the European cities are aware to a certain extent about what CITS is. Good starting point. What is also more interesting is that we have 90% of all of these cities stating that they're interested in learning more. Because cities right now, looking from this survey, but also internal C-Mobile surveys, are actively looking for decarbonization solutions, and not only decarbonization, but solutions also that can improve livability in the cities, improve air quality, and very often these same solutions are coming from the same source. So we need to present the benefits from the CITS, and we are doing that. These are the services that we have seen in C-Mobile that can help most with decarbonization work. Traffic and efficiency, green priority for dedicated vehicles. We have, for example, in previous projects, but also in this project, have priority, for example, for trucks at intersections, as an example. Because if you think about it, from both safety but also environmental point of view, it is much better to know if you have a traffic light in intersection and you have a small car coming from one side and you have a truck coming from the other side. It is much better to stop the small car and then let the truck pass through the intersection without stopping. Because every truck that's being stopped is consuming a huge amount of energy to restart again, basically. Green light optimal speed advice is also supporting us with eco-driving. It simply doesn't work in congested situations, but when we have less congestions in off-peak hours, we can absolutely see the benefits. And it does also not benefit only on the decarbonization side, less fuel consumed, but it's also a benefit on the driver's experience as well, and on the comfort side. And we also have cooperative traffic lights for vulnerable road users. This is basically speed advice and glossa, for example, for bicycles that we have seen implemented in Copenhagen. So again, broadening the scope of CITS from the vehicle specific to actually supporting all of different transport modes. The final point that I also want to raise is that we are also looking at integrated mobility, and what you can see here, there's a lot of different elements of mobility that are kind of interplaying all together in different fields. And up to now, CITS, or sorry, up to a couple of years ago, CITS was very much vehicle driver centric. We'd always had also intermodality as well. In CITS since 2006, different functionalities, but still vast majority was about the driving element. Now, if you look at integrated transport too, let's call it like that, we see that it's becoming much more about person, about the traveler, about the driver in some case, still absolutely, but also about other road users, and it's more about people than technologies for the vehicles. So it is going to be really interesting also now to have a look at how will CITS support, for example, vehicle automation in the future with CCAM. How will CITS also support the traffic management of the future, so-called concept, the concept called TM 2.0. All of these aspects and many more, we are looking into the strategic agenda report that is going to be published in a couple of weeks. We are also going to have a panel discussion after this presentation where we are going to be going into some of these topics more in details. So I would like to wrap up this presentation with basically stating this, that the world has changed. The goals of the C-Mobile project and all of the previous CITS activities have to be adapted to the real life needs. We cannot go ahead with CITS as we have done for the past 5, 10 or 17 years, where we talk only about traffic efficiency. We need to see how can it concretely support the Green Deal, how can it concretely support the air quality, but also support the cities, road authorities, and all of the other stakeholders that have quite well evolved in their thinking since the past years. So thank you very much for your attention. Giacomo, back to you.
Thank you, Jelko. Would be nice to see your face, actually. Okay, let's go quickly to the questions. Okay, let me have a look. There are some old questions which are dated from a few minutes ago. One question, I think this is rather a question, a statement than a question. Receiving prod vehicle data could be a very good motivation for road operators to invest in cooperative ITS, because this way they can save money on their detector system. How does the panel see this, and how this can help the evolution, I would add, of cooperative ITS? And then there is another question from Thomas Desselt, which is challenging what will be, how we see the evolution of cooperative ITS, if there will be any cooperative ITS at all, and how the traffic, the road authorities will manage traffic, if this is what role there is to play, and what I understand also what will be the solutions that we envisage in the future. So maybe we can rather put this question to the panels instead of just answering ourselves. Jelko, what do you think?
Absolutely.
Then let's go for the panel. The floor back to you, and let's please introduce the panel yourself. Thank you, Jelko.
Okay, I'm highly disappointed you couldn't see my face, because I even shaved after 2 weeks of non-shaving because of this event. So I would like to invite all of the panelists for the second panel to put on their camera, please. And we are going to continue, I think, the highly interesting discussion that we also had from the panel discussion 1. So with us today, we are going to have 4 highly experienced and interesting speakers. We are going to start with Gert van den Linden, who is coming from the European Commission. We are going to also have Jan Rominders from one of our members, Technolution. We are also going to be speaking with Georgia Ifontopoulou from CERT. And last but not least, we are going to have Jos van Vlerken from Copenhagen. We were also foreseeing to have another colleague from Arriva, which is a big public transport company. Unfortunately, due to health reasons, the colleague was not able to be with us. Now, that said, I'm confident we are going to have as exciting discussion as we have had in the first panel. So to start the discussion, I would like to ask each of our panelists to give us a 2-3 minute introduction to who they are and how do they see field of CITS where we are today and how it can support us in going forward. Gert, can I please start with you?
Yes, good morning, everybody, and glad to be here. And I've been listening in since the very beginning. My name is Gert van der Linden. I work for the European Commission in DG Move, and I've been working in the field of CITS for the past roughly 6 years. And to answer your question, where are we now? Well, I'm glad to say that we are at the level of deployment. Indeed, some of you have been working on this for almost 2 decades, much longer than I have. But I'm very glad to say that today CITS is reality. I'm sure many of you will also attend early June in the roadshow that the Sea Roads platform is organizing to demonstrate that indeed across Europe we have deployment. And that is not only on the infrastructure side, but we also have now vehicles on the road since the end of 2019 that are equipped with CITS as standard. So I think we are roughly at 500,000 vehicles now, and thousands are joining every single day. So this is an exciting moment. Of course, a lot more is needed. One of the things that CITS needs is it needs everybody to be on board. I already heard this morning people saying it is crucial that we have interoperability. It is crucial that we have trust between all the different stakeholders, and so we need more. The good thing is it has started, and finally the promise that CITS, the promise has always been there. The potential for both road safety and traffic efficiency has always been there, and I think we will finally start reaping the benefits.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gert. I lost a little bit sound connection during your introduction of the speech, so I apologize if I missed a little bit. Thank you, Gert. Jan, over to you. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what do you believe about CITS going forward.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Jan Romeinders from Technolution. I'm a consultant in mobility, and as Technolution, we focus on sustainable solutions for hardware and software to improve the traffic flow for multiple modalities. I'm also the project lead for Technolution in the Socrates 2.0 project, which might be known to you. And for me, I think it was already mentioned before that as a society, we want a better traffic flow, but also taking the environment more into consideration. However, facilitating, of course, is not easy in this. So we can make sure to give way to other modalities like public transport, but also cyclists. But we do see that we want more data to facilitate this, which might be lacking a little bit at the moment, but we also noticed the first great signs that we can actually use the data if it's available. So for instance, what interesting data might be, so what kind of roads are taken by cyclists, and is the infrastructure set up for that? But also are motorists aware that sometimes, especially within the city, it might be easier and faster to take public transport or to take your bicycle into the city than take your car. That's something that we work on to see if we can get that data and then actually use that as well. So I think CITS is a great opportunity for that. And if we do this, then we can also lower the pollution, for example, because if public transport is taken more by people, and the same if people take their bicycle more, that of course helps in the pollution as well. And I definitely see the strides that are made in CITS for this.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jan. Another person that I know loves cycling, and especially in his hometown of Copenhagen, is Jos. Jos, how does the city of Copenhagen see CITS? We have already heard from Jan that cycling is an important aspect, so we understand that is, of course, the case for you as well. But can you also tell us a little bit about your work on CITS, and especially maybe from the public transport point of view as well?
Yes, of course. Well, as the viewers might know, cycling and public transport are the most important modes, the highest prioritized modes in Copenhagen, above private cars, so to say. So we believe strongly in that services and solutions need to be developed and are being developed basically to make cycling and public transport more convenient and of course more efficient as well. This we expect and hope will result in a modal shift from an increased modal shift, so to say, from private car use to cycling and public transport use. Cycling, of course, is the most beneficial one because there you also get the added health benefits. There's a very strong societal, economic incentive basically for public authorities to promote cycling because it actually saves us money in other aspects of society. But unfortunately, until recently, most CITS solutions have been targeted for cars and motorized vehicles, trucks, of course, which is fine naturally. It's understandable that the market is bigger for those modes, and as long as they kind of help in some way or the other to decrease emissions, for example, that's very important to us as well. There is a balance though, because do we want to decrease emissions and then give some kind of convenience benefit as well for that for motorized vehicles? Let's say they are prioritized at intersections above or in front of cyclists, which then kind of behaviorally incentivizes more car use, right? So there is kind of a balance in what do we want to do? Do we want to create some more or less artificial barriers to these to the motorized vehicles, and then prioritize cycling and then of course public transport, or do we want to get them efficiently in and out of the city? What are we doing there? So there are some policy aspects, some kind of and some other priorities that we need to land upon, which and all of these should be supported by the technologies developed and the solutions deployed.
Thank you very much. Just hold that thought, because we are going to be discussing that. We could be discussing that probably for the coming 2 days, but we are going to, I think, touch upon this, the reality of the reaching the balance. I think what we all are convinced, we need to reach the right balance, whatever the right balance means, and that we need to make all of the transport mode as efficient as they possibly can be. Thank you very much. The latest speaker that I would like to invite is my dear colleague Georgia. She's from SET. Georgia, tell us, what is your view on CITS and how we are going forward towards more sustainable mobility?
Hi, Zeliko. As I said in SURF, participating in MobILE, we are working a lot on this smart, connected, automatic, and sustainable mobility. So CITS as a technology and those tools have been proved as being enablers for smart mobility, digital transport services, and also have proved the support. Are you here? I'm with you. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. No problem, Georgia. Please continue. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry, because there was a message coming out from the web camera. Okay, sorry. So, and proved also the impact of the CITS to these societal challenges of the city. So we already discussed it. We have deployments showing safety improvements. We also have optimized and energy efficient traffic management. CITS is already, let's say, integrated with the traffic management technologies and new techniques. We already discussed about cooperative ITS being integrated with MAS and proving their impact in the efficiency of the operations of the fleet manager. So there are many proofs that we have CITS being an enabler in for the cities to achieve their challenges, societal challenges. However, what we have demonstrations, we have pilot projects. What we need is to capitalize all these outcomes and make more apparent to the city authorities the benefits of the CITS and achieving the integration of this in their planning, in their sustainable mobility planning. And for doing that, we need the actors, we need the public authority. So I think there we should focus in the future, trying to make very apparent the impact of the CITS and making part of the planning of the cities.
Thank you very much, Georgia. Very interesting input. We also experienced a little bit technical issues, so I would just like to ask all of the panelists to try to put on your camera again, because apparently they were shut down for some reason. I'm not sure why, but thank you. Very good. To kick off now the debate, I would like to ask you, Gert, or Gert. You already mentioned that now we are finally starting with a larger scale uptake of CITS, which is absolutely fantastic, because this is one thing that we have all been looking forward for years. You're absolutely right. We also have now vehicles in production coming up. What do you see as maybe still the biggest barriers for us to maybe speed up even faster compared to where we are today? Is there something more that we can do going forward?
Well, I think a lot of that was already touched upon in the previous session, and I mean, Klaas hinted at the unclarity on the legal side. I don't need to repeat that story, but indeed that could have helped. But I think that the biggest question is indeed that where is the business case? Because as demonstrated also by this project, I think the benefits are clear. And the benefits are there, and they're not in doubt. But the benefits are largely societal. What is the cost of, for example, reduced strain on the medical, the social and medical system by having less fatalities? That is difficult to pinpoint to individuals that have to invest. So that is one challenge that we have. And the other thing is, of course, that CITS only works in large numbers. So it doesn't work if you have one vehicle equipped. It's a start, but the benefits will be zero. If you have two vehicles equipped, it's slightly better, but it will be still, the benefits will be almost zero. So you need large numbers. You need everybody to be on board. And for that, I think the numbers we are seeing now are very hopeful. It becomes meaningful, but we still need a lot more. And I think another speaker said it earlier this morning, I think it will take time. I mean, if we go back a couple of decades and think about, for example, ABS, which is probably where it all started with as a first system that would actively improve the safety of the vehicle. When that started, it was rare, it was very expensive, and people were challenging the benefits. Some people were still saying a good driver could still brake the car faster than an ABS system could. I think today, nobody would try to make such an argument. Today, for a long time, every single vehicle is equipped with ABS as standard. It is normal. Nobody doubts that anymore, but it does take time. And as I said, in this case, we have the added complexity that just equipping one vehicle will actually not create the benefits. It only works if we have all the transport users involved. And I really have to emphasize all the transport users. So it is definitely not cars. It is, of course, first of all the vehicles. And I fully agree with what Jos said earlier. But of course, we have to distinguish between which part of the question we answer where. So CITS, of course, will not make the policy choices for us. We indeed have very clear choices to be made. I can fully understand, and I think many cities can take an example of Copenhagen on prioritizing bicycling. CITS will in itself not help with that. We need to make those choices first. We need to make sure that the infrastructure is adapted, that we provide the right incentives. And after we've done that, CITS can help make road traffic more efficient and safer.
Excellent. I think Joost would fully, absolutely agree on that statement. He's nodding very nicely. Very good, thank you. Gert, one thing that we have seen as well is you're absolutely right. We cannot start deploying CITS on one vehicle because it's not going to be, we are not going to see much benefits. But what we have also seen from previous initiatives and also see MobILE is that, for example, dedicated fleets, for example, public transport buses going on certain routes in a city could actually pay off both, let's say, providing societal benefits, but also could pay off financially, I would say, much faster than implementing a private car, so to say. So when we have vehicles driving on dedicated routes. Jan, is this something that you have been doing in Socrates as well from your side, working with public transport?
Yeah, so public transport, not so much. We focus on the cyclist and the motorist. So what we've done specifically in Copenhagen, we work together a lot, Jos and I, to facilitate this. Is, for example, there are a number of sensors, of cyclist sensors in the city of Copenhagen, which intersect with the car network or the prioritized car network, and you also have the cyclist prioritized network. We've gathered that data, and we saw, okay, so if the number of cyclists reach or exceeds a certain limit, what we do then is send a request through to TomTom so that they can ask their users to avoid that certain intersection. So in that way, you can give way to the cyclist, and the cars or the motorists know that it's busy up ahead. So for them, it's beneficial as well to take another route. And I think that's a win-win for both modalities in that sense. And of course, there are sensors on the market right now, and they're being developed as well. So it's still early stages, but at least we've shown that it's possible to do this. And maybe on top of that, it's something that we see as well is that we want to look at a network perspective. So not just optimize intersections and corridors, because if you optimize a certain intersection, it's not that the traffic is gone at that moment. It will go somewhere else. So if you can incorporate that in the network vision, and the most ideal way is to include all those modalities into one system, then I think you've got a really bright future. But that's also a big challenge, of course.
And that is absolutely really interesting findings that we also need to connect from your side. How can we, what did we learn from other activities on looking at all modes of transport, and how can we kind of optimize them together? Georgia, from your side, you were just about to say something, but I'm just going to jump in there. I know that you have a high level of experience from sustainable urban mobility plans and on the government, urban mobility and governance. How would you see, how does CITS fit into the sustainable urban mobility plans, but also looking at the governance from the cities? What are some of the best recommendations that you would provide to cities and other stakeholders from your perspective?
Yeah, Angelico, yes, actually CITS, but also ITS in general, they have, in urban planning, they have three roles. They are infrastructures, for that they need to be managed. They are data providers, so information that can support the planning, understanding the problems, and then prioritize policies. And of course, it's an enabling technology and tools to implement measures, like, for example, priority to bicycles, like access controls to low traffic zones, etc. So there are multiple roles the cooperative ITS and the ITS in general can play in urban planning. The thing is that urban planning is right now at the hands of cities, and there we are lacking knowledge about what these technologies are and how they can and how they can support the achievement of the goals of the city. So we should not look only on the big cities, but we should look on the medium-sized cities, that there are many in Europe, and really they are facing their planning process. So the things I would like to, let's say, to convey as a message, as a suggestion, following oral expertise that we're doing on driving city-led innovation for smart and sustainable mobility in the cities of the future, is that first of all we need to create competence. So and we need to bring the people where they have the knowledge of the technology together with the people that they make the decision making, and this is something that can happen. It happens, for example, in some cities and in some regions. The second part is let's say, the creation of governance, not only at the city level, but also at regional level. These big investments in big technology needs usually bigger level of authority that applies them. So we need to share knowledge between cities and regions, but also across borders sometimes. And the third thing, it has been mentioned also in the previous session, is that we need to continue to have this living lab infrastructure. This is something that we have done here, we have made here in Thessaloniki together with the regions and also the technology providers, opening the data, using AI, using this network approach for optimizing the network, and then achieving multimodality, and make all the stakeholders being part of the multimodal system optimization, and moving towards innovative solutions and future digital mobility. I think these are the three things that cities could do in order to integrate cooperative ITS and support cooperative ITS and ITS in deployment.
Thank you, Georgia. Thank you very much. I would like to take one of the questions or reflections from our colleagues in the audience. Let me see which one. There we go. So if you project ourselves in an automated world of road automation, so in a number of years, Do we need CITS at all? And the second part of that question, how will public authorities manage the traffic? Does CITS have a role to play, and how fast? So I think if you focus on the first question, considering the CITS and vehicle automation. So I would just like to start answering that from my perspective. And based on the discussions that we have in the strategic agenda work with multiple stakeholders in the C-Mobile project, we see that, yes, CITS is a supporting functionality to the automation world, so to the more CCAM, let's call it like that. But it should not be totally merged into it. And the reason for that is that we see that CITS is mature, ready for deployment, well-known and established term and technology, while we see that field of CCAM is still, let's call it, relatively new and very much on the research stage. We are not close to deployment. So we do not want to blur the message by, let's say, merging totally CITS into CCAM. We believe internally that it would be much better to continue roll out deployment of CITS as we are doing now, and also bear in mind and plan for how it can support the automation. Gert, I know the European Commission is working a lot also in the field of CCAM. Can you tell us a little bit about your perspective on this?
Yes, thank you very much. And first of all, I want to support what you said. We need to roll out and deploy CITS on a much larger scale today. I mean, it has started, and more is needed still. And indeed, it will be a key enabler for CCAM. Now, in that, I mean, the first C of CCAM is the same C as the C from CITS. It is about cooperative. It's cooperation. And in that sense, yes, we absolutely do need it, and we need it today to enhance road safety and to improve traffic efficiency. And we will need it in the future to unlock higher levels of automation. If we want to do that safely, and the expectations are that it will not be a little bit safer, the expectations for CCAM are that it needs to be a lot safer. And to do that, to make it possible, yes, CITS will absolutely be a key enabler. It's easy to think of this. We equip vehicles, even the non-automated ones. Even today, we equip them with ever more sensors. They have cameras, they have radars, they have lidars. Those are all sensors that are based on vision. We're giving the car eyes to understand and look at the world around him. With CITS, we give the vehicles also voice and ears. We allow them to communicate amongst themselves, but also with the infrastructure. So yes, a very strong yes from my side. We need CITS, and indeed we've launched. Mats mentioned it in the previous panel. We are expecting to launch next month a new partnership under Horizon Europe dedicated to CCAM. So this will cover all the research calls on CCAM for the whole Horizon Europe for the next 7 years. And CITS is very much part of that, because it is one of the, like I said, one of the main ways to integrate the vehicles with the infrastructure, with traffic management centers, making them an integrated part. And if I can link that also to what you said earlier, indeed, this is the way to make shared mobility services reality. And indeed providing, and that is one of the core messages that we had for this partnership, providing a viable alternative for private vehicle ownership. So if I go back once more to what you said earlier, public transport and bicycles, that is very good. That is what we prioritize. But automated vehicles, shared automated vehicles, can complement that nicely, either for people that can no longer use bicycles, that maybe live too far away from the next metro stop. If we would have feeder services delivering those people to the next metro stop and go on to cross the city then in the metro, where another automated vehicle awaits them to bring them to their final destination. That way we can bring door-to-door mobility to public transport.
That is very interesting to hear, and we are also very pleased. I think several of us in this call, and I'm sure also from the audience, are heavily involved in the CCAM platform. So this is absolutely exciting development and move from the European Commission. So thank you very much for that. Because by working together, we can define these scenarios of how mobility of the future can evolve. And this is also one of the things that we see on vehicle automation, as you rightfully said, that we are going away from thinking about automated specific vehicles more into let's automate vehicles, but to be also used in a specific mode of sharing as a complement to public transport, and integrated with all of the other modes of transport. Jos, we have previously had some interesting discussions about vehicle automation and how would, for example, automated vehicles function in a city where you have a lot of cyclists, such as Copenhagen. And could CITS also even there be a support for easier coexistence of these automated vehicles together with cyclists?
Yes. First of all, I would say I agree fully with Geert. Automated vehicles can bridge this gap between cycling and mass public transport, so to say. But to answer your question, Zelko, it's a bit complicated. It depends on how, at least automated vehicles need to be at least as good drivers, so to say, as a vehicle with a person in it. That seems to become a lower and lower bar, because people are not that good drivers either necessarily. So we're getting there, right? But there are some of these dilemmas. So because many of the tests that have been done with automated vehicles are in test tracks, of course, very limited conditions with regard to multimodal traffic. Like we have in Copenhagen, we have tens of thousands of cyclists on one single corridor every day. How will automated vehicles handle that, right? Will cycling become a more equipment-heavy mode of transport? Will there, right now, cyclists, daily cyclist commuters, I myself, I don't really have any like equipment in my bicycle. My bicycle, my lights are not connected. Let's say my helmet or whatever equipment I use when I cycle is not connected. I have my mobile phone. That is a good platform to build these connected solutions upon. But then you get into, why would I cannot really use my phone while I'm driving, while I'm riding my bike. How do we connect bicycles to this connected system, right? This can be done, of course, this might be able to be done from infrastructure equipment, but then again, there are some gaps in the solutions that we need to fill before cycling and before automated vehicles and cyclists can really talk together to a degree that's sufficient, right? Then we have the whole pedestrians, the same applies to them, of course. So I think, of course, I think there are some kind of issues. Well, issues not necessarily, but some challenges towards bridging this communication gap between vulnerable road users, cyclists, and pedestrians, and the automated vehicles. This can be gapped maybe by infrastructure equipment, maybe by the smartphones that almost all of us have. You know, so it depends on in which direction the future of bicycling and pedestrianism, in a way, how that moves, which will then determine how automated vehicles will be able to be deployed in a way. And yeah, does that answer?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. It's a complex question. I mean, I don't understand. I don't expect an easy answer, so to say. There are many topics that we still need to cover to see how we bring everything together. But on the other side, so yes, vehicle automation is going to bring us a lot of benefits when implemented within the right framework. But if you look at what's coming sooner than that, of course, we do know that from 2022, as one of our colleagues in the question window stated, that from next year we are going to have intelligent speed advisory implemented on all vehicles. Do you believe that functionalities such as ESA are going to actually help us bring forward the CITS in any way? And this is an open question to all four panelists, whoever would like to take it first. If you have opinions, otherwise we'll go to the next question.
Yeah, I think I can say a word there, Zelika. I think they're going to be definitely benefit on that, and it's going to be also a real big understanding of the impact of this service, of this type of services. But I would like also to mention to the previous discussion, to add to the previous discussions, that until the autonomous and automated cars there will be a big part of our reality in the cities, I think CITS are needed in order to secure the connectivity between the bicycles, between the bus, between all the conventional modes, and also the new ones. Now we are discussing on how the scooters, how the other type of vehicles that they are coming in the cities are going to be interconnected. So definitely CITS should continue to be a separate research item and deployment priority in the cities.
Thank you very much. So we have 4 minutes left before we need to wrap up this highly interesting discussion. I will ask all of you for one final short statement from your side on, let's say, wrapping up and going forward. What is the most important to take away from this discussion? But before that, before I ask you all four of you, I would also like to see if we have any opinions on the urban logistics and how CITS can play a role there, because this is also one of the topics that traditionally has not been high on the, let's say, policy agenda of many public authorities, at least. But it is one of the elements that is going to be needed for decarbonizing and greening our urban environments. Any opinions on this one?
Yeah, I can say a word there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think city logistics will change dramatically in the next years. I mean, the pandemic created a lot of boosting about innovative solutions coming. So we will see different type of cars. We will see different type of modes being used. We will see also, let's say, infrastructure, micro consolidation infrastructure based in the cities. And so new type of infrastructure, new type of modes of operation of city logistics that will be available in the city. So again, having the vehicles being communicated with infrastructure is a priority. And I can see a very direct, let's say, field where indeed cooperative ATS can help is related with the traffic management and the different traffic management solutions for freight transport. So dedicated traffic management for freight transport are the topics where really CITS can provide a big benefit for the city logistics operations.
Thank you. Jost, you also wanted to add something?
Yes, I totally agree with Georgia. But I also want to mention data and modeling, of course. Right now, as a city, we don't really have, well, much data on where goods vehicles are going, how filled are they, what are their patterns, what times are they in general moving. We have very sporadic data on this, and also we have traffic models that model regular traffic, person traffic, but we don't have, in Copenhagen at least, we don't really have models modeling goods delivery, and goods delivery will be a bigger and bigger part of urban traffic going into the future, I suppose. And it would be very good to be able to model interventions, model if any accidents or something, like if any obstructions happen, what then will happen to the goods delivery make this even more efficient. Also, even modeling multimodal goods delivery solutions like cargo bikes, it could be extremely interesting. And to my knowledge, this doesn't exist at the moment yet, not on a citywide scales anywhere. So this might be a good starting point to be able to kind of have an idea of what to do with logistics in general and goods delivery.
Great, thank you very much. We are at our last minute, so just final words from all of your side. Jan, we will start with you, and I also know that Socrates is coming soon to an end, so maybe you want to tell us some few final words from your side.
Yeah, thank you, Soko. Yeah, I think right now concerning CITS, I think the most benefit we as a society can get lies in the multimodal aspect. And there are really the strides that we can take, and I really hope that more focus will be on the other modalities than just cars.
Thank you very much. Gert?
Thank you. Well, first of all, just quickly going back to the previous question, and I should have said it myself, everything, or with the odd exception aside, everything I said earlier applies to both passenger transport and freight transport. So there is not necessarily any distinction. CITS is good for all traffic, for both. And as a final word, I would just like to repeat something that was said earlier. CITS is mature, it is out there, and we should all continue working very much on making sure we deploy much more of it as quickly as possible.
Georgia? Thank you, Gert. Georgia?
Yeah, so I will take from your intervention. And my last word would be that we need the data and the modeling and the new tools in order to integrate cooperative ETS as a technology and as a part of the measures that we look for the new digital, smart, sustainable mobility for our cities. And this needs to be supported in order to share, to create the framework and then the incentives in order in the cities to share the data between the public and the private stakeholders. In the case of the city logistics, this is much more difficult. ITS technology and CITS can be enabled also to that dimension of creating the data lake that is needed in order to achieve innovative solutions for passenger and freight in the future.
Thank you very much, Georgia. And few final words from Jos.
I simply agree with everything that's being said, so I have nothing to add now.
Fantastic, fantastic. I would really like to thank all four of you for this exciting discussion. We have come a long way since we started with the CITS. Now is really time to roll out with exciting additional activities. Thank you very much for following this panel discussion, and I'm sure that many of us will continue collaborating also in the future deployment of CITS in the coming days, weeks, and years. Thank you very much to the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye,
very
everybody.
much. Thank you very much, everyone. Very interesting discussions, and actually I have to say that I know that there is modeling for logistics, and we will come back to that in another event. But now the last statements, the final words to our project coordinator. Alex, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Giacomo. I will share our last quick presentation for today. Okay, so after all these interesting discussions that we had today and presentations, it's time to wrap up. To do so, I would like to introduce you to the head of the electronics department at A+ IDIADA, Abel Carpunell. He's also a member of the steering committee of C-Mobile, so he's been following the project closely since the very beginning, and will now present a little bit of main project highlights that C-Mobile has brought. So Abel, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning everybody. Thanks, Alex. So yeah, I mean, I was remembering when we started this project now in June 2017 in Barcelona, where we hold the kickoff meeting for this project, and we got a very clear message from the Commission at the start of this project that was very challenging for all of us involved in this project. Okay, so we were asked to deploy a real case of real cases of ITS. You know, that had been a lot of projects before this one on ITS, but the Commission wanted to see a real deployment and a real implication of the cities in this project. Okay, so there were different challenges coming from the Commission that after all these years of this close to 4 years working, I think we can do a very positive conclusion. Okay, so from my point of view, and I think that also agreeing with the steering committee that has been following up the project, I think the first challenge that we had was the interoperability challenge. Okay, so we have been able to deploy the services all around the different cities. You can use the same application in the different cities with the same results, with the same performance, with the same let's say interaction with the user. Okay, so I think this is really, we believe that this is really an achievement of this project, and for the first time we can see that these operations, these functionalities we have implemented are really interoperable between different cities. Next one that has been also mentioned during the morning, we were told to implement an ITS architecture that would be replicated along the cities, along Europe. And for that, we have, I think all the team has done a tremendous effort in building this architecture that is now available for the other cities, for cities following that want to implement these technologies in Europe. They can use it. As you know, there has been a lot of interaction with the United States on that. They have a lot of experience around this area. So I think we take advantage, we took advantage of that, and we were able to implement this architecture, and now it's available for many people. Then we have, as also has been shown this morning, we have been working a lot on the business models. It's true that, of course, there have been some limitations on to find out the good results, conclusive results of that, but at least we have put the path to say, okay, this is where we believe things are going to move in this direction. Okay, and now, of course, in the next deployments of functionalities, we want to see if these business models that we have planned could be really fulfilled or not. Okay, but we believe that the work that has been done is very useful for that. Okay. The next one, of course, the Commission asked us to re-implement the functionalities, not just to implement the technical part of it, but also, of course, the deployment. Of course, as you all know, it has been challenging. We have a lot of additional challenges apart from the usual ones in this last year. Even that, I think, or we believe that the deployment we have done in different cities in Europe has been quite good. Okay, of course, it also could be better, but at least we had a good exposure to people, to the public of what we have done, and for sure this will continue. And finally, also there has been a lot of efforts for the team to involve other stakeholders in the cities, especially from the cities, from mobility operators, from service providers that were not involved directly in the project, but to be also integrated into the project, to listen from them, to really also let them understand what we were doing in the project. And I believe this also has been a good example of what I think this is in line also what the Commission was expecting. Okay, so I think that in general terms, I mean, from our side, from the other side, we're coordinating the project. I want to thank all the partners involved in the project. I think we have been working very well all together in a very professional way. And I hope in the last session we have with the Commission, this will be also shown to them. But I think that we were able to achieve the main targets that were put there at the beginning when we met in Barcelona in June 2017. That's all from my side. Please, Alex.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abel. So the last slide, I would like to conclude with again a look into the future. So after all these discussions that we had today and all these presentations, I think that it's now time to get the main outcomes from this project, and now look into the future and specifically into the Europe's future, already current and future challenges. They all have been mentioned throughout the whole session and throughout the whole event, but just to to close with it, the first one is interoperability. I think we at this point we all know that interoperability is a key aspect. So we must be interoperable between cities, not only in cities then, but the entire road. We need to find architectures that we can standardize to have this large scale and market uptake. We need to increase and engage public-private partnerships. We are now having collaborations between public and private organizations that never happened before in some cases, in some areas. So we need to also put the focus on those to make deployments possible. We need to increase and improve data access. So mobility databases must be well maintained, quality must increase. This is not just about traditional traffic management now. We need higher accuracy, we need higher updates and higher data flows and even larger information than before. So it is really very important that we work on this data access, data homogenization and provision to the CITS services, because without data and without data sources, nothing is possible. And last but not least, is user awareness. We really need to dedicate our efforts in the future to increase and promote user awareness. We need to also put some efforts and on dissemination of these results, dissemination of CITS and letting the users know and letting the citizens know how CITS can help benefit their lives. Because without user awareness, no actual deployment is really happening. So this is something that we must really to take into account. And all these four pillars have been maybe the main pillars in C-Mobile and the main outcomes or challenges, lessons learned that we could extract from the project, of course, at a high level, and looking towards the future. So just to close, that was all from my side today. I would really thank you very much, everybody involved in this event, from organizers to panelists to the speakers, but of course also, and most important, the audience. Thank you all that you have that you attended and stayed with us until now. So we really appreciate your interest, your questions, and please stay tuned because the final results will be coming very soon in the following weeks, and everything will be publicly available on the C-Mobile website. So you will have all the public deliverables and all the information regarding results and from the beginning till the end of the project. So yeah, stay tuned for more. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Alex. Just one last thing before we close, and actually what you already said really connect to the COAMP website that we have created, and please join us, and we look forward to see you on board. Bye-bye.